Hi there. I would never make a video in favor of drugs in general. At the moment there's two horrible new drugs entering the market, and I'm afraid that they're going to be very popular also in the US. One of them is bath salts, which is a synthetic drug, I believe, which makes you psychotic and commit suicide. And it's very cheap, and it's still legal in many states in the US, so you can simply buy it for 70 cents or something like that, and then you're screwed up. And the other one I recently looked into, and you have to be careful if you Google it, because it is really extremely horrible. And it's stuff called crocodile, which is a codeine-based heroin replacement that you can make apparently very easily. Don't try it, don't do it. And that makes your limbs fall off. It's like, turns you really in a live zombie, where the bones are sticking out. It's horrible. If you look at the pictures, it's amazing. You just fall apart because that stuff kills the flesh, and then it rots away. And you get extreme brain damage. It's like there's a drug war going on between the US and Russia, because the Russians were having a big problem with the heroin production that was restarted by the US in Afghanistan. So heroin was sold, and there was money flow going around the planet based on it. But of course it ended up somewhere, and it was used somewhere, and apparently it was used by the Russian youth that were all using it, and they were all getting addicted. But now it's still going on, but now there's a cheaper alternative that's called the crocodile stuff, and they're dying. After, on average, I believe 3 years of use, you're dead. So it's not a very good thing to talk about, to consider that. But there's something important, I think, an important aspect that people are overlooking if you are considering the effects of drugs, and that's that they allow you to exist in an environment which is highly depressing. No, that doesn't need to be. So it could be simply a very boring environment. So you like to have some recreational drug. And there's really something about that I think is sadly has to be acknowledged, and that is that our environment is not supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be boring. And the reason why it's supposed to be boring is because if it's boring, you know it. You know what to expect, which is boring. But then also you know what you can detect. So your brain will always move towards a place where it knows everything about its environment. It has absorbed it, it can generate that. That's how the brain works. It kind of produces whatever you will sense, and by doing that it cancels it out, and then you are able to sense the dangers, and you sense the things that are strange and new, but usually, of course, in nature where you come from, it's to detect the dangers. So you need to be bored in order to be able to detect a lion on the horizon or a snake in the ground and stuff like that. That sounds like we just came from the forest, but evolutionarily we did. We had 250 million years to evolve, and in the last 100 years we have basically moved out of the pastures and out of the forests, and are barely in contact with animals anymore. But before that, life was extremely boring, and that was a good thing. But the brain, so the brain has sensitivities, and these days, if you feel bored and you get also some social pressure because you're boring, you construct some kind of image of, or you are readily presented from many directions with stuff that has a high concentration of things of interest to your brain, like bright colors, tits and ass and all that stuff, and loud noises and roaring engines and beautiful vistas, everything that triggers your mind into believing, hey, now I saw something very exciting, and it's in my environment, and it's not threatening, so I will look into it. But even on the other side also, you have horror movies, you have people shooting each other, all that stuff. That's also for another part of the brain that's actually looking out for danger, but is bored shitless, because we have made our environment very safe, because we don't want to die. And also that's also exploited, so our brain is completely messed up by all these signals and products that we especially make to make people do things while they really shouldn't be doing anything. Like ultimately, when you have your breakfast and you have your cup of coffee and you have your warm environment, your house, and you're not being, you're not being beaten up every day. You're done. That's it. That's what you were supposed to achieve, survive, and that's it. And then you can have good food, beautiful garden, all that stuff. That's all natural. So there's nothing wrong with it. And that's actually one of the most healthy things you can do. Because even working in the ground causes your skin to come into contact with bacteria that make stuff that makes you live longer. Rapamycin, you can Google it. It's a substance made by bacteria in the earth, discovered on Easter Island. They weren't so lucky. But anyway, just to get to the point of this video, there is an argument for a drug that makes people less ambitious and less needy of stimulation, because it's not supposed to be, the world's not supposed to be stimulating all the time. You would be exhausted. You would be in a constant fight. So if there was a legal drug, and we'll call it Soma, based on the hallucinogenic drug in the Brave New World of Aldous Huxley, that you could choose to take if you were basically safe and sound and not destitute or anything, or not super depressed, but you simply didn't want more for a while. Like people going to a nunnery or going to a cloister or whatever you call it, or people moving into styles, basically, because if you are a grunge style or I'm not sure what they're all called these days, goth style, you're basically moving into a culture, changing towards the culture. So you're done with the whole clothes things. Now you have black jeans, well, and you're done. People really, you can see that they really are looking for a way to do things right and then be done. And that's why they're conforming all the time as well. But if you have a drug that basically shortcuts that and says, okay, so now I'm alright, that would be nice. And funnily enough, I think there is such a drug, but I'm not in favor of it, because you have to smoke it. And that's, I think, for some part, you could say it's marijuana. So nature provided us with a way to deal with the intense boredom that you get when you are fully adapted to being safe in your environment. Anyway, that's my thoughts this morning. And if you Google crocodile, watch out, it's really disgusting, and I really hope that Putin is banning over-the-counter sales of codeine, which is a painkiller that's used to make that drug, but he's doing it with the beginning of next year. So I'm not sure how many more people have to die, and how much more money the pharmaceutical companies will make in that period. It's horrible. He should do it immediately, and I think the same should happen in the US and in the rest of Europe, because it's a cheap drug and it destroys you quite quickly. It just makes you into a complete human wreck. Anyway, thanks for listening.